kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubbles.
Hal Sparks.
All right, under the wire. Right under the wire. We did it. And you know, because there's a lot of monkey wrenches being thrown right out of the gate this morning. There's so much stuff to talk about, and we're very lucky to have with us not only our own Johnny Million, who has his own Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Hal Sparks. Switch.tv/John. It's Johnny Million.
I have a real identity issue.
It's true. And I, by the way, I love your background, by the way, the Google screen
Thank
that
you.
you're getting
I
behind
thought
you.
I was going to have the creepy thing that crawls behind you.
Oh, you will, absolutely. But we'll work on that piece by piece, because I had to enter into I had to bring our next guest in, our first guest, our only guest, our main guest right now is our dear friend Dem Boston Brian from the Midas Sets Network.
Crazy.
And his own.
Look, he's right there.
He is. He's right there, and he's covered in he's got a chat over his face. There's all sorts of stuff because there's so much going on.
Look, I'm
that
literally
looks
in
nuts.
the chat.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, I fixed it. Don't worry, I got it covered. So there's so much to cover this morning. And first of all, hi, welcome, good morning,
Hi.
Hello, guys, and hi,
everybody
chat
doing?
room. Yeah, lots to talk about this week. But the reason I had wanted Dem Boston Brian to be here this morning, and in many ways why I'm glad he's starting his office, because we'll bookend the show today in many ways with what's going on in Ukraine, because there is a lot of movement. For all the people who were concerned about the slow-moving aspect of the counteroffensive, it is definitely kicked into high gear right now. And one of the things that we've dealt with the, I guess, ahistorical view of the Soviet Union / Russia, especially at a time when a young Vladimir Putin was playing an outsized role in decision making before he came to power. One of the stories that I think a lot of people have forgotten about is Storm 333, and I brought this up. Operation Storm 333 on my live stream, and Dem Boston Brian texted me just shortly thereafter and said, I think I thought I was the only person who knew about Storm 333. And for those of you that don't know, Storm 333 is was the operation that heralded the invasion of Afghanistan by the Soviet Union way back in the day, that led to a 10-year war that they were involved in, that up until, I guess, about 15 months ago was the biggest number of dead they'd had in a battle since World War II. Now we're approaching World War II numbers, so if not surpassing them in some ways, depending on your the volume of their own soldiers versus citizens, let's say. But so Dem Boston Brian with this, by the way, that's your X handle currently, and then on TikTok it's the same. I want to be clear on that, because Boston Brian is our.
You know what? I'm a boomer, I feel like, so I don't know. It's one of the two. I think if you
That's
search
right.
Boston Brian or Dem Boston Brian, I'm never sure which one is the handle.
It's definitely Dem Boston Brian here on YouTube.
Okay,
Right.
yes, that's right.
And then let me see what I find when, because we follow each other on what I will
And
always call Twitter.
Pal, you'll be happy to know I'm on Threads.
Look at
Oh,
that.
yes.
Finally.
See, progress. I'm doing it. I'm making it. I feel like I'm totally making a real impact. Now the show is finally doing some good in the world after all this work.
No, but I was so surprised to hear anybody talk about Operation Storm 333 just in general, because, obviously it's not one of those well-known military happenings that everybody talks about on a day-to-day basis. So
and I think that's a mistake.
It's cool to be able to talk about everything from plumbing to politics to Storm 333,
That's right. So there's a lead up to Storm 333. The Soviets invading Afghanistan and deposing the guy they had put in charge after they had gotten him to kill the guy that they had put in charge before him.
What was his name? Hafizullah Amin?
Yeah, Hafizullah Amin was the guy that they killed this time around, but he had killed Taraki or whatever, the guy who was his boss previous to that. Now, no one should be surprised. One would think that the Soviets were being very duplicitous in this, and the big thing that stands out to me is why they were like, what was it that was the last straw with Hafizullah Amin, where they're like, all right, that's it, we got to kill this guy. I'm one of the people who believe it was a push for some level of religious plurality in the country, that he was trying to normalize it and turn it into was effectively a tacit European style power in that way.
They went in and made up some story that he was part of the CIA and was working with the United States to do something against Russia, and that's what they used as their the reasoning for going in there. But I was, a lot of people the Operation Storm 333 was actually part of a bigger operation. That was just one of the things in their operation where they were taking over military units, jails, and military installations all around there. So
right.
I mean, the palace that they stormed was actually really heavily defended. I mean, if you read into the story, it's actually a pretty wild. I mean, Russia actually threw in almost every group that you can think of with initials that they had: GRU, KGB. They had a bunch of different assets going in there.
And it took all that to kill one CIA asset. It almost seems like they always seem to embarrass themselves with backstories on these.
Well, the palace was guarded by like something around 1,500 of Hafizullah Amin's security guards and stuff.
Yes.
So it wasn't just like a everybody's walking around doing nothing type palace. I mean, they were really defending it.
Yeah. So whoops, hold on, I lost you visually for a second. There you are. Ta-da! You're welcome, Johnny Million. So,
yay.
Yeah. So, there were a couple of attempts on this guy's life previous to them just sending in troops and just planning to kill the dude. Right. Again, largely because he was getting a little too open and European for their tastes.
It sounded way too democratic for their tastes.
Yeah, exactly. He was starting to listen to too many people, which you can't have. And so they sent in these people to kill him. But they previously tried to poison him once before. Right. And then they sent a sniper to assassinate him. That didn't work. They missed. And so finally, on the day of Storm 333, and I love, people should go and dive into this in their own time because we won't be able to do the entire coverage today. But on the day of it, they tried to poison him again. They poisoned everybody at dinner. They sent in a Soviet asset to poison everybody who was there. And everybody fell asleep at the dinner table like some sort of Monty Python sketch. And, right? And, but interestingly enough, Hafizullah Amin awoke before everybody else because the poison didn't work as well on him.
Diluted or something. I'm not sure.
It was because he was drinking Coca-Cola, and the carbonation in the beverage, that was the CIA asset. There you go. America using its corporate power.
Just in case Russia decides to come after.
Yeah, right. It's always have some on hand to just clean yourself out. That's a true story though. It was he liked Coca-Cola. He was drinking it, and the carbonated aspect of the soda apparently diluted the poison more so than everybody else, which was just to knock them out until they could be murdered. And he woke up early from it. He was still convinced the Soviet Union was on his side. And when his guys told him that the Soviets are here, he was like, "Oh, good."
Yeah, he invited them in.
Wow.
Yeah. Come on in, buddy.
Yeah. After and his guys were like, "You don't understand. They've been shelling the place while you've been unconscious for the last 7 hours. They've murdered dozens of our guys. What do you mean let them in?" And eventually, whether he wanted it or not, they got in and they shot him in the head and then threw a grenade at his body.
And his family. I mean, it's a sad
That's
story.
right. Yeah.
I think it was his 2 kids or his wife.
Yes,
and
they
his 2
murdered
kids as well.
They killed I want to say a 3-year-old and his his minor age son who was closer to like 17 or something like that, and everybody else. They killed everybody, but they specifically for that. I mean, judgment being what it is. I mean, you're in bed with somebody like that. I mean, how do you deal? But that in and of itself, put that up against America's missteps on the international stage and our alleged imperialism and the stuff that we're engaged in, and the American response to it when we get busted. Abu Ghraib, something like that happens, and the American people in general are like, the hell with this. What is this? Like, it's a scandal all over the place. This was not a scandal in Russia, if I'm not mistaken. This was like, no. Good going, that's great, that's how you do. This is what we're in the business. So, is tactically speaking, you follow you're a big World War II buff, and a lot of these the Soviets developed this habit, and the Russians have maintained them, it seems, ever since. Has that been your reaction in watching this war play out? Like how Ukraine acts?
I've actually just recently been surprised to hear that Russia was somewhat changing their tactics. If I can remember the area, but they were actually, instead of using infantry as they do, because they just, since World War II, that's what they did, just overwhelm their opponent with numbers, and they actually sent in tanks this time, and they found out to be more effective, which was something I'm surprised at, because Russia doesn't change their tactics. They just don't. They haven't in a long time, and it seems like they're just against doing things that make sense. And they're just, they're bullheaded, and what they know is what they know, and what they've always done is what they're going to do. So I was surprised to hear the change. It was in and around the, now I'm going to hit myself and I'll think of it. But yeah, no, they're very bullheaded when it comes to anything military wise, or changing their style or way of life or tactics in any way.
Well, I mean, it's worked so well so far. I mean, again, this is a horrifying notion that I'm sure that all Russians are shocked by. That at the beginning of this war, they were expecting it to last 3 days, maybe 6 days. They were also expecting Donald Trump to be in power when it happened, and this was all scheduled to happen during Donald Trump's second, term. So he was, I guess it was supposed to go a lot smoother, but they weren't supposed to lose 250,000 soldiers and service personnel in just under a year of actual fighting. And that is, I mean, if you look back at like shock and awe and the first Iraq war, when, Iraq was slant drilling into Kuwait and all that kind of stuff, and the UAE and all of our other allies in the area, including Kuwait, were like, hey, what gives? And Bush decided this is a great way to hide his affair that was apparently coming, allegedly coming to, it was working its way around the corridors of power in D.C. and all that stuff. And it's a great way for him to wag the dog. Ironically enough, most of the wag the dog stuff that people talk about, Kosovo and Clinton, was those stories were germinated during Bush 1 and the 12-day / 20-day Iraq war, the first one. And then the Bush follow-up of, they tried to kill my dad. Right? This seems to be a thing amongst the PNAC crowd, trying to play like the sandbox. They're like the gangster rap version of actual gangsters. You know what I mean? Like the Bush PNAC crowd were like, oh, we could knock over like 7 countries and create a cascading domino effect in the Middle East. And then,
well, the numbers we're seeing now are just ridiculous. I mean, throughout the war, it was normal to see Russia lose somewhere between 2 and maybe 5 or 6 tanks a day. Recently, we've been seeing numbers as high as 16, 17, 18 tanks a day. I mean, and obviously, depending on what type of tanks they're using, I mean, that's something like over $50 million in losses in a 24-hour period that Russia doesn't have the ability to replace right off the bat.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like, I mean, in a war of attrition, which is what I believe this has come down to, unfortunately, it just has. I believe that Ukraine has the upper hand with their allies being able to, I mean, the United States just increased their production of 155 millimeter artillery shells. I mean, when you have the United States backing you, and the European Union behind you, and giving you ammunition and thinking of war and attrition, as big as Russia is and as capable as they are to produce this stuff, I think Ukraine by far has the upper hand if this is what it's going to come down to.
Agreed. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. More of Boston Brian at Dem Boston Brian, wherever you get your. Is that what it is on Threads?
Correct. Same thing.
Excellent.
Yep, same thing.
Excellent. Well, I will be following you. I'm going to follow you during the break on Threads just because
I cannot find you on Twitter right now, and we had a conversation like 2 days ago.
That's because Twitter doesn't exist. We'll be back right after this. Yes, it's spelled with an X now, and it's pronounced shitter. Obviously, we're using the Xi Jinping.
Right.
Hey, Johnny, I saw your messages. Are they saying my audio is any better now or no?
Are you quiet? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they said it was quiet.
Okay. Give me a
I don't
second.
know. Let's see what the chat says.
I'm gonna
Okay.
try going to my headphones real quick. See if that
No, you're okay.
Don't change a thing.
You're
It was
fine.
only one mention.
Yeah, and I'll boost it. There you go. And I'll boost it on my end so that,
Hal Vickery, who just super chatted out the yin yang, says the audio seems fine. So I'm about to.
I'm just amazed
that
Hal's
Betsy,
you know, Hal, there's just something
Old
about
Lady
the name
Pants
Hal.
says
They
it's
just seem to be
low.
good people.
Yes, that's true. I gotta say, I have the most loving and supportive and generous chat in the entire world.
Real
period.
Quick,
End of story.
Was the bridge hit again, or was it just a smoke screen, or did they miss?
Three missiles were. They said they shot down 3 missiles. I sort of call BS on it.
I can't tell by the video.
Coming back in 5 seconds.
No, right. Well, that's why I think it's BS. I think the Russians are just shooting at the sky and claiming they hit something. For all we know, they hit their own. They hit their own missiles.
Mega worldwide.
Welcome back. We're live streaming at infotainmentwars.com and on twitch.tv/HalSparks, and of course at my Facebook page and on what's left of Exeter, whatever we're calling X these days.
Exeter. Oh, I like that.
Right. Well, that's what everybody's doing. Everybody's leaving, so it's kind of the perfect name for it. I mean, it is a crap posting site right now. It is like news organizations are posting on what's left of Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter, almost out of habit. But quite frankly, now on Threads, I'm seeing the exact same story posts and all that stuff. Like the news organizations that people go to, the only thing that isn't there yet is the sort of trending news story aspect that's there. And Threads is apparently putting together a thing where this is the trending news stories, this is the trending stuff for you, this is the trending kind of overall in your area, and like they had on Twitter, but more reliable as far as like.
And also
why
for
it's
this
trending.
baseball nerd, there's not too many people like live threading sport events yet.
That's true. Yeah, if you're gonna like be 18 seconds ahead of your friend who's watching the game on the West Coast or has a worse cable package, you can blow the big place where I'm going, man, like, and they're like, what?
I actually did have a really fun, I had a fun experience the other night where somebody was actually in the ballpark, saying things that were going to happen in about 90 seconds. It was fascinating.
My mom watches some games while Summer is watching them. By the way, today is my girlfriend's birthday. She's in Rome right now. She's on a plane, actually.
She's posting some lovely stuff from Europe.
Yes, she's on a flight to Rome right now. Of course, to meet with some of my Vatican Illuminati George Soros contacts over there. Of course, you got them. You know them, Boston Brian. They're the ones who, I guess changed your gender and gave you a name and then send you a check every month.
Unfortunately, my private jet's in the shop at the moment, so
that happens. It's you know what? The service plan, I got to say, the Illuminati jet service plan is the best. It's
not bad.
How many points have you racked up?
I can't say, but it is a derivation of 6 and 6 and 6. I'm just saying it's weird. It always adds up. I don't know how they do it.
Always
it's amazing.
goes back to that.
Illuminati math is the best. Anyways, I have that Soros calculator, and it's only got 3 6s on it and a multiplication. That's it. There's an equals. That's all we get. So apparently, we'll get to some of this. But we were talking during the break about sort of the very nature of the battle, this week. And I have to say, one of the moments, and we're going to talk about this, no doubt, with with our dear friend Philip Ittner, who's in the next hour with us. That Solovyev, the host of their Rush Limbaugh, their Sean Hannity, who's vacillates between morose and violently excited, is very upset that the ruble isn't doing better. Apparently this week, apparently their ability to hide how crappy how the sanctions are affecting them and how their economy is going, I guess all died at once because the ruble is now at a 25-year low against the 4 major currencies that it trades with. The yuan,
according
the rupee.
To Newsmax, Russia's economy is supposed to grow 4 times in Q2.
Yes. Yes. What is 4 times negative 0.05?
Right. I swear to God they said that. I swear to God.
Well, again, 4 times 0 is 0, but also if you're actually sliding backwards, they might be right. Maybe that's the technicality. They just don't give you the other equation. Solve for x, but I won't tell you what the x is in that regard.
Now, have you ever seen the video of Solivov before the war started, talking about how it would be insane to go to war with Ukraine?
Yes.
Yes. So I always love pulling up that video and comparing that and contrasting that to his statements today.
Yeah, it's a shame when these guys are right and then they have to be professionally wrong.
Correct. That's exactly what it is. That's his absolute opinion to begin with, and now he's acting to keep his job and to stay alive. Basically, is what's going on.
Yeah, and while we're talking about Newsmax in that regard, that is exactly the space that right-wing media finds itself in. I would love to get your take on the fact that Hunter Biden's finally got a special prosecutor, which is something the Republicans have been asking for. They finally get it. And it's one of the people that they've been railing against didn't move forward.
Wait, you mean Joe Biden didn't stop? He didn't put a stop to having a special prosecutor put towards his son?
It's 5D chess. Look,
man, I really thought he wasn't going to let that happen.
The way you no, you don't understand, Brian. The way you stop a special prosecutor is to have a special prosecutor. That's how look, Sora. I have the memo here somewhere. He wrote it down. I don't know. Honest to God, it's the guy in Delaware who would be in charge of it is now in charge of it. That's that. It feels like a very Comey, circa 2016 moment. But at the same time, it's not going to go anywhere. So I don't know. My neck hurts I'm getting whiplash from yawning.
Like at some point, the Republicans will be like, well, they're investigating too much just to hold up time. Like, stop investigating them that
right.
much.
Well, you might actually. Clearly, the issue is that they're afraid that he's going to go straight for the information that they dance around, and it's not going to turn into anything.
Right.
And if they find one area where they're like, he acted as a foreign agent and didn't register, there's emails from the alleged laptop where Hunter Biden is literally saying that I don't want to violate FARA. That would violate FARA. So
somehow you don't see those messages on Fox.
It's funny. I don't see Rudy Giuliani does not bring those up as often as he hammers that his printouts of iMessages. But I also would say that is the biggest fear, and that's I think and we'll since we got Brian on here anyways, chat room, if you have a question for Brian, throw it in there as well, because I would love to hear his take, because I know what questions I ask him in our personal conversations, but they might be different from yours. But is what they fear too keen an eye on the actual details? Because when I break them down, every time we dive into one of these stories, and you've seen me do it on my live stream, and I've seen you do it on your videos, that if you actually look at what they're dancing around, I don't know, this sounds funky. If you actually look at their accusations, not only does it not amount to anything, even their accusations at level 2, if you have to go to level 5 to get the actual facts, at level 2 sound like the stuff that they said that Mike Flynn was tormented over, and it shouldn't have ever been brought in the first place, and the like.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I don't know how many times can Sean Hannity end his interview with James Comer saying, "So do you think you're actually going to find anything to prove this?" And James
I hope so.
Say, I hope so.
Yeah, like, hope so. Yeah, right.
Sorry, Chicago. I caught myself.
That was really
He
close.
did. He's fine. You can catch yourself. That's totally fine. Yeah. It was like stuck the landing.
But still, like, how many times can you end your interview with, okay, we're going to talk for 5 minutes about evidence that people know about for the last 5-6 years and have been coming out with, that we already known about. And now, like, you're trying to make this into something even greater. You're lying about forms that are bullshit forms that anybody could fill out, that if I called right now and made an accusation against somebody, would be on a piece of paper somewhere saying that, regardless if it's true or not. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then at the end of his interview, say, okay, are you actually going to find something to prove any of this? And then he always says, I hope so. I think so.
And it's been years. Like,
right.
when it came to, for their complaints about Donald Trump and his and the impeachment stuff against him and his lies about the Mueller investigation. It said no collusion. No, it didn't. Bill Barr did a fireside reading of his interpretation of parts of it to try and soften it, and even he didn't say that. There was plenty of collusion. Actually, Paul Manafort alone is indicative, and Carter Page is acting as a courier, and George Papadopoulos' admissions are a thread of collusion that was happening. The only difference is that Trump says, I wasn't a Russian agent. Like, nobody accused you of being a Russian agent.
There's a video of Mueller saying, listen, they asked him, hey, are you ruling out collusion from this? And he says flat out, no. You know, is there anything to rule out collusion? No, there's not.
Right. And that's an ongoing issue that they have, is that maybe they fear looking into this evidence simply because it undermines their entire case, because
you have to dance around the outside.
If you're operating on innuendo, right.
Correct.
And that seems to be the Trump status, like that he goes, the status of an investigation is not the quality of the evidence, it is how much you can use it to manipulate the news cycle and the like.
The use of the headline, just that headline, Biden investigated, is what they want, or Hunter Biden investigated, or Trump investigation fake, or whatever. And they'll take that headline, he'll put it in every speech and every clip he could possibly get, and he'll run with it regardless of what actually happens in the outcome of the investigation.
Right. And the weird part of it is that the guy that they've appointed, this guy David Weiss, who's the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, who's going to be the special counsel in the Hunter Biden probe, is a Trump appointment. He's a Trump nominated him in 2017, and that's as close as you can get. 2017 is the year he took office. That's as close as you can get to his campaign promises of, I know the best people. We have stupid people running things. I will put the best people. I will put in the best people. Well, then you did. And this guy is now in charge of this. So you got to live and look, I'm telling you, we're 3 months away from Trump going, where is the Weiss report? Where is it?
And he's come out several times and said, I have not been hindered in my investigation whatsoever. Yep. I've been afforded any opportunities that I need, any handouts, anybody that needs to, you need help from any of these organizations, you let us know. Whatever state that you need to conduct your investigation in, that this leads you to, go ahead. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and Trump's new thing now is he did clear the swamp. You just didn't notice. In his speeches, I forget if it was Vegas or New Hampshire, or if it was stupid sit down with the guy with the mask,
Brett Baer. Yes, the man who uses marzipan for his injections. We have to take a break.
Yeah.
If you want to stick through for another break, I'd love to have those questions from the chat if they're interested. We'll hang out. We'll be back.
I put a couple of questions in the chat. They're very single-minded.
Uh-oh. He's single, ladies. We'll be back. I'm kidding. We'll be back.
Yeah, at least it's not all, are you single?
Right.
Why is Brian so hot?
Recording screen names of people commenting so that she can find them later on Twitter.
So she can comb DMs looking for them, right? Yeah. I find this part fascinating. There's a couple of things on our, and we'll wait on the questions when we go through. But there were two big things that happened. Like, there's all this under the radar stuff that happens with the Biden administration that's just normal competency that drives me crazy. What gets eaten in the, considering, the Trump years, where his complaint is they don't pay attention to the good stuff. Well, meanwhile, there wasn't any. He's talking about the McConnell tax cut.
Right. Well, it used to be that's how it happened. The government just worked. You didn't have to understand or, make everything into a campaign ad or turn it into a commercial or something against your opponent. It just, the government worked. It did its thing. We went about our lives. If a big issue came up, we spoke out about it. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Okay, you guys know I love me some good news, and usually we save it for the happy ending, which is at the very end of the show. But there are a couple of things, and we were talking about this just during the break about how the news is, they're not ignoring. I will not say fake news or they're ignoring the wins. It's just the general public is, you know, if it bleeds, it leads, and scandal's a lot more interesting to read about than the fact that we had the 1 year anniversary of the PACT Act this week, and they extended the deadline for people to file for it, and they said it was part of a technical glitch on the website. I call BS. I think they wanted to stretch it out and give people more time just in case. And I don't doubt that we will see some cases where people like, I had no idea, or my uncle had psychological problems due to his illness, and we didn't get a chance to tie that to it. And so they'll get a ability to file past the deadline. It's not a hard deadline in that regard anyways. But the PACT Act itself...
Or people down south that just have never heard of it to begin with. You know what I mean? Don't even know it's a thing.
And you want to talk about like fake news denying you stuff that would benefit your life.
Exactly.
This I think somewhere in the order of $1.82 billion has been satisfied, paying, you know, has been paid out, satisfying the needs of, you know, financial needs, helping with healthcare costs and that kind of stuff of VAs, of veterans. It is the biggest veterans expansion as far as health benefits since the creation of the VA, if I'm not mistaken. And that was, you remember the tooth pull, Lauren Boebert voting against it. It is, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene voting against it. And yet, singularly, probably the most popular thing to happen to veterans, you know, in decades.
And on any veterans watching or in the chat, thank you for your service very much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you're having health effects because of stuff you were around, especially, and this applies more, you know, and certainly soldiers were exposed to this, but there were a lot of service personnel, the people in the motor pool, the people that, you know, medics and the like, who were actually backfielded away at the camps and stuff where they had to get rid of stuff that were affected by this stuff long term, or people that serve on bases and that kind of stuff that were, you know, and so again, you shouldn't have to put your life in, you know, on the line when you're in that kind of a, you know, backfield service job in the military.
Correct.
But you do, because of the nature of the materials you're dealing with, because it's war. And sometimes they're just getting rid of munitions and toxic stuff that they find as they clear areas and civilians move back in the case of Iraq and other places like that. So again, that's why you salute the service of everybody who serves, not just people who saw action forward, or in Trump's case, you know, saying John McCain wasn't a hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured. That means he doesn't care about anybody who wasn't even fighting. The rest of the service personnel in the military, he could give a damn about.
I mean, just like you said, I mean, look at the people in the motor pool. I mean, you look at the size of the equipment that they're dealing with. I mean, just that alone is dangerous to work with when you're moving tires, you're swinging turrets on tanks, you're adding weapons to aircraft. I mean, just that alone, no matter where you're doing it, is incredibly dangerous and hazardous. You know what I mean?
Right. You get repetitive stress. It has an effect on your body, especially long term. So that's why veterans' health is such an important issue, and it should remain
Medics
so.
Seeing horrendous injuries and stuff. You know what I mean? When you see trauma or a gunshot or shrapnel or something like that, they absolutely must have an effect on a human being after a certain amount of time. Regardless, I mean, even just training. You know, I'm sure just some of the training stuff that they show you in the military just to get you ready for that is somewhat, you know, traumatizing and real.
It should shock your system to prepare you for what you'll actually encounter. But the actual encountering, you know, has that effect long term. And it's just important. And it's good to see the Biden administration treating it with the normal importance that it should have. Like, it shouldn't even be a point of contention. The fact that the PACT Act was not completely bipartisan is mind-boggling.
Are you saying that the president of the United States shouldn't say that he doesn't like when military service members are captured? He only likes the ones that weren't captured?
Yes, I know. I'm going to go out on a limb. Yeah, mark today on your calendar. It's a red letter day. Yes, I'm gonna say unequivocally that I think that's something that that the president of the United States, and specifically one who maintains the title of commander in chief, should not say.
So he shouldn't request to hide the USS John McCain military warship, so he doesn't have to see the name on the back of it during his trip to Japan in, I believe, 2017. So that's something a U.S. president probably shouldn't do to its own military, correct?
Probably not, but especially to intrapafin. Was it, how did you pronounce
Combat infantryman.
Yes. It's good, but the thing is, he cares. He knows deeply. He can resonate deeply with why people serve.
They sacrifice every day for the furniture, future.
I'm just
sorry.
That's okay. It's one of my favorite ones ever. I don't quite get. It's right up there with
future.
Yeah, it's right up there with Stanctuary.
Stanctuary.
I like when he was trying to do the names of the cricket players. Sinjin Soker.
Oh God!
Oh, no.
Any name, like he was literally in Alabama thanking people for having white names. Essentially, like Kelly Marks. Like you could see him just like whoo after every name.
He
James
just did it in New Hampshire. He was
Smith.
pouring in sweat, and he couldn't get a single name right, and they weren't that difficult.
Frenjamahan Scarpafor. And by the way, it's never been easy for him.
Christopher Columbus. Christopher.
I mean, some names are harder than the others, but Christopher Columbus was apparently a difficult one for him as well. Christopher Columbus.
Hey, yesterday, what's he say? Yesterday is a hard word for him. Which word?
Yes, that was that was just recently.
Yesterday is a hard word for me.
That was actually because he couldn't say defiled. Yeah.
It's so good.
Really an ominous.
Right.
Obama.
Some names are difficult.
And his wife, Carrot.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, that's the one that gave us the most joy for the most amount of time. Which, for people who weren't here for the early days of my live stream, Karen Pence is probably the most religious person in all of Trump's orbit, even beyond Mike Pence while he was in office. And the only thing she cared about going to was the prayer breakfast. Okay, that's the real. I mean, she's maybe a bit spun. I've talked about her weird reaction touching Jesus's feet at the chapel when they first had their thing, and where she wouldn't stop shaking Ivanka's kid's hand, and it was really awkward, and Pence had to yank her hand away. Anyways, Trump introduced
We're
her.
honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President Mike Pence and his wonderful wife Carrot.
He called her Carrot Pence. And at the only thing she cared
Tim
about
Apple.
Tim Apple. I mean, that goes right there. I mean, that was part of his fruit.
Appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
That was part of the entire fruit
The
and
Mueller
vegetable.
report, I wish
My
covered
favorite is when they stormed the airports
oranges.
during the Civil War.
Yeah, the
Our
ramparts.
army
Oh,
manned
yeah,
the
yeah.
airports. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports.
Yeah, it took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. Meanwhile, that happened. That actually happened. In a July 4th
And he has
speech.
the balls to say that Biden can't put two sentences together.
Right. That's the amazing part. But I mean, he would know though, because
words. I had the best words.
And at least he tells the truth sometimes.
We're going to
You
be
should have
appointing
Brett Baer when he
very
rants off like
pro-crime
35
judges.
people that don't want to endorse Donald Trump anymore
Oh,
because they've actually worked for him. Like that list just kept going on. That was honestly the first time I've laughed out loud at a Fox News interview, probably in my life. But when
sure.
the list just kept going on, they cut back to Donald Trump's face, and he's like,
Yeah, sinking, right? Well, that's okay. I spoke over you. It's okay. We're fine. I will say that his whole defense to it was, for every one person you name, there were 10 who love me. Name one of those 10.
and
he couldn't do it.
Unnamed.
He couldn't do it. Like, what's he gonna do? Bring up Wilbur Ross or Mnuchin? Like, both of them are like all he has to do is mention Wilbur Ross and Mnuchin, and somebody somewhere will go, I was at a cocktail party with Mnuchin last week. The stories he tells about how stupid Donald Trump is and how, he and his wife used to laugh about it while they were having sex on top of the gold in Fort Knox. Gross. By the way, on another note, really quick, Jennifer Granholm, who's, again, another example of government competency, which I'm enjoying currently during the administration, says the U.S. is investing $1.2 billion in plants to pull carbon from the air, planting trees and all that kind of stuff. And interestingly enough, you know where it's happening? You know where these two projects are happening? $1.2 billion to grow some trees and plant some plants that will pull carbon out of the air. Texas and Louisiana. That's right. Federal dollars. And look, I understand they don't believe in climate change. Abbott thinks it's garbage. He said so. So all they have to do is say, no, thank you. We don't want that money. We don't want that $1.2 billion in federal tax. It's not right for the voters in California and Illinois and New York that actually care about this stuff and pay most of the taxes in the country to send their hard-earned cash down to us to plant some trees for something we don't believe in. So please take that $1.2 billion and give it to...
Well, Trump's going to say that's going to be overshadowed because Texas is the only place where they can refine the tar we're getting from Venezuela.
That's right. Yes. Because we're begging for oil from Venezuela, even though we are near an all-time high for oil output.
Correct.
And
we are drilling at this moment.
That's right. And we still got empty. Every oil company has leases they are not acting on because they are overproduction. They would again, there's this weird idea, and this is maybe they always joke about how Hunter Biden doesn't know anything about business and doesn't know anything about oil and gas. But do they realize that actually an oil field, like building the mechanical like the machinery and the processing plants and the drilling itself is a very complicated and dangerous endeavor.
They think you just stick a hose in the ground, right? You get down to the oil and you put the other end in your gas tank, and then that's how. Why aren't we?
I think you're overcomplicating it. I think they think it's the Jed Clampett model. I think they believe that you could just accidentally be shooting at a rabbit and just blow a hole in the ground, and suddenly we're rich. Right?
We just hit oil.
We hit oil, man. Come on now. And then the banjo starts playing.
Question real quick. I'm sorry.
Yes, do that.
I put them all in the chat here, and there's one that's actually like legit. Oh, where'd it go?
Good.
Where'd the chat go? Oh, here we go.
One that's like legit.
Well, most of them are like, "Are you a Patriots fan? Why are the Red Sox 10 games out of first place?
Ouch.
Do you realize that if you married the moderator Mark Kramer, that would make him Boston Kramer, like the donut."
Boston Creamer, right?
So anyway, Jinx Krug is asking, do you know about two of the top guns of the Federalist Society 126-page law brief about the 14th Amendment, about how Trump and others couldn't ever run?
I have not.
So, the Federalist Society, they wrote this giant paper explaining why Donald Trump should not be president, should not even be allowed to run again because of the insurrection, that he supported an insurrection, and by all measures, this guy, and this is the Federalist Society. This is not, I was
just going to say, this is
not the Nation or Mother Jones or any of our, progressive friends on the outer fringes. This is, with friends like these,
what
it's
do
one
you
of those
mean by
ones.
the two top guns? Like, what's that part mean?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, I
just know that it's two people from the Federalist Society. I don't know that it's two of the top ones.
People, maybe. Yeah,
they're legal. I'll see if I can bring it up. But they're legal, heavy hitters that write stuff for them. To attack things, kind of like the top lawyers at the ACLU, for example.
Gotcha.
I mean, that did make the news. It did get around.
I wonder why all of a sudden on that one, or if that's something they've been saying all along and I just missed it.
No, this is in the last couple of days that it's just started to bubble up because they've been circulating it. It's William Bode, I think I'm pronouncing that right, from University of Chicago, and Michael Stokes Paulson of University of St. Thomas. They said they studied the question for more than a year and detailed their findings in a long article to be published next year in the University of Pennsylvania Law Review. So they basically were shopping this around and it got out. Because the idea is that they think they're going to bring this up if he actually wins the nomination or if he gets close to the nomination. They planned on putting this out, and they think that legally speaking, he won't qualify. And there'll be a case why multiple states will have good legal reason to not include him on the ballot in states.
Do you find this somewhat similar to like the authors and journalists, that spoke to Trump and have like, really pertinent inside information waiting to put it in a book? Like, what I'm saying? Like
bit. Except for they're publishing this in the University of Pennsylvania Law Review. So the idea is that they are making a legal case. And people could act on it. Good faith legal decisions could be made on their argument, or in parallel to their argument. And the issue is, and I think this is true, is that there are a couple of states that could go, yeah, he doesn't qualify because he was found guilty in the Jan 6 case, or he was found guilty specifically around this. And that alone, we don't have a choice. This isn't like a blue state thing. This is legally our and the interesting thing is red states and, more, allegedly patriotic states from back during the Cold War years put things in their constitutions right around the time we added in God, like God to the Pledge of Allegiance and those kind of things. Those very states were at the forefront of, guaranteeing we couldn't have a Manchurian candidate, or somebody working for the Soviets and attacking us, or, some sort of communist Manchurian candidate. And the irony is that that's what Trump is accusing Biden of being in this. Yeah. But this is the law that's going to be used against him. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide, now with 100% more. Johnny Million and our friend Boston Brian just going to ride through the hour with us. I'm just going to call it. We'll be back.
If I'm overstepping or hanging around too long, just let me know about it.
Nope, we're good. We're totally good. I just I couldn't tell which audio you were hearing at one point, so I was feeding you something, and I couldn't tell if you were hearing certain sound things or not.
Did I come on early or something? Was I on early or too early or something?
Yeah, we're gonna have it at the bottom of the hour, but that's cool.
Oh, right, my fault.
Now you're in for the whole hour. We're fine. It's all good, man. The hour is blazing by, and nobody minds in the chat. We're glad to have you.
Like I said, your tent in the background for your show and just hang out the whole time. Actually, it looks like Johnny Million actually did that. Looks like he's got a tent behind him.
I do.
That's right. Well, they can't see that because I've green screened him.
No,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's
does.
right.
I've got Brian sees my pup tent.
I got behind the scenes look.
That's right. I fixed that. I tried to fix it anyways. I'll look. There's a new plugin for OBS that allows me to green screen even when people don't have one. Don't.
Oh, damn.
And here's the thing, and this is where I'm a complete maniac. Most people expect you to use it on your own camera or a guest's camera. They don't expect you to use it on interviews with Donald Trump. No, definitely. But interviews of Donald Trump, where it would be super easy just to cut him and whoever he's talking to out and fill the background with pictures of Trump and Epstein on an airplane with a bunch of what looked like underage girls.
And I love how Trump is now. I love how they say, the Democrats are trying to run.
I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it.
But
I'm gonna have to jump
his
on.
polls keep going up.
Garage
We know
band
that.
and start
We keep
sawing
indicting
something
him.
together.
So how is that
This is
interference
the House
with our
Sparks
health?
Wow, and a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the House Sparks Show. Wow, and a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The House Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Perverts. No perverts.
All right.
Made a pivotal, really
deliberately, willfully, and with total premedication.
All right.
Premedication.
That's how
I
Johnny.
do so many things premedicated.
Yes, that's right. That's how Johnny Million comes to us most days. He's a long distance runner, so he's got to take some I don't know, Doan's pills. I don't know what they are. I'm trying to think of the oldest.
Usually Doan's pills and anti-diarrheals.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, which I appreciate. So you don't want to be like that guy who technically beat his record, but at what cost?
Just take the
What
subway like that
cost?
lady in Boston. What was her name? Rosie Ruiz. She
Mhm.
just took the subway to the
Oh,
end
that's
of
right.
the Boston.
Oh yeah,
Marathon.
she was amazing. Man, oh man.
Well,
She's know their number on
she's
the
a
train.
winner. She knows how to win. She's she found a way around the rules. So this is the case we were talking about beforehand and the argument that they make was that the provisions language is automatic according to their article, establishing a qualification for holding office no different in principle to the Constitution's requirement that people be 35 or eligible years old. Was that Section 3's disqualification rule may and must be followed, applied, honored, obeyed, enforced, carried out by anyone whose job it is to figure out whether someone is legally qualified to office. That's what they wrote. And when it comes to Donald Trump, on so many fronts, he's already disqualified. Never mind the fact that a judge said, yeah, by the standard definition, he's a rapist. Yeah, that was like that's a guy who's still running for president.
He had
Wow.
no business being president before he was president. Like he
Right.
he should have been out of the running before he was even in the running.
And nobody knows that better than him. Like he knew.
Yeah,
like look at
who
his
didn't think
face
he
the
was gonna
night he
win to
won.
begin with. Yeah, right.
No, exactly. So a hilarity on so many fronts. Now we know the absurdity of Donald Trump and his argument. We know the absurdity of those who continue to support him, and there's this slow crawl of Republicans. Obviously, Chris Christie is in the zero Fs category for some reason right now. He really does think this is his
slow crawl is his only speed.
Well, sure. I mean, but that I would say he came right out of the gate in this situation. Everybody
really
else
did.
is like tiptoeing, but and it's maybe it's because they're seeing a dawning of post-Trump, and it usually comes much like the people who turn on him. And you brought up the Brett Baer thing, where Brett Baer listed the people who don't like Trump anymore. And it seems to be all the people who spent the most time with him during the decision-making process. That seems to be, there's two groups of people. The people who watched him make a decision the most often, and people who have seen the evidence against him, who used to like him and went, oh my dear God, what a monster.
Right. It's like his lawyers now trying to tell us that they know more about Donald Trump than Bill Barr, who spent an exorbitant amount of time with Donald Trump, close to Donald Trump, working with Donald Trump, and absolutely knows more about how Donald Trump operates than this, hack lawyer Lauro, who's been around for about 6 days. You know what I mean?
Right. So the question ultimately, I guess, is there a breaking point where these guys break through between now and the primary? And does it require some of these cases, to give them an out? I mean, if they haven't taken it already.
I think the legal system and the cases against Donald Trump is definitely giving Republicans that have been sitting back waiting for their opportunity the gall, let's say, to maybe put their foot in the water and start speaking up a little bit, not because they're strong, but because they see the indictments as an out. You know what I mean? They almost have a back door to just in case. You know what I mean? They're hoping that works, so they really don't have to dive in full. You know what I mean? They want these cases to work, basically.
I know what you mean.
Say it's a back door, but I call it a smart door.
We
didn't hear that sound, Hal.
Oh, you
I
didn't? Oh, that's what it is. Okay, cool. That's why.
Did you mean something like this?
No, it was. It was very specifically. Trump says you can call it a back door, but I call it a smart door.
Yeah.
Okay. All right now.
Now we've only got a couple of minutes left in the before the next hour and our break, and right now at the Iowa State Fair there is a lot going on. Vivek Ramaswamy apparently did karaoke. Well, I don't think you call it karaoke if there's backing tracks. He rapped over top of "Lose Yourself" by Eminem in an okay millennial moment, I guess, if that's what it is. He literally got up and started doing it to the crowd, which is just like, all right, this guy's not seriously running at this point. He's just like, this is it. Like, he's trying to scoop. No, I think he was just trying to scoop up some angry Andrew Yang voters in the end. But the question is, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are both there, and is it a good sign? It's not surprising that DeSantis is there and with everybody else, because as the secondary front runner, they're all going to be there. The question is, why does Donald Trump have to show up at all? Is it weird that Donald Trump is having to actually do retail politics this time? Stuff that he shunned in 2016. In 2016, he couldn't be bothered.
Well, that's what happens when you're going around, bragging about having 56% of your party's vote that you won with 96 or 95% of already.
The last time, right.
Right. So it's like you've already dropped 30, 40% in popularity. He keeps saying that every indictment, his polls keep going up, yet his numbers have stayed the exact same with the polls that he's been putting out. He's still about 53%, 54%, 5, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And he says it goes up, but he posts polls that never change. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting under 60% of the vote that you won with over 90% of. So just right there is not something to be bragging about, in my opinion.
And you've already served. You've already served. That is the weirdest part of it.
Incumbency is known to have its benefits to it. You know
right.
I mean? So
and last time you could argue that he snuck through because he was not a known entity. That people bought into this whole, maybe we need a businessman running things. Maybe we need an outsider. He's not an outsider anymore. So
that was a big factor, I think, in him getting voted in. I think it was huge. I think people were sick of the system. They were basically at the point where they said, I'll vote for anything but what we've been doing for the last so long. You know what I mean? And that just happened to be this guy.
What horrible timing.
Right.
Well, there's never good timing for it. It was terrible timing when it helped Bush beat Gore in 2000.
I was gonna say,
it's
if you
always
look back in history, a lot of the things with perfect timing, in different areas that all came together to create this perfect the perfect storm, let's say, for these things to happen. You know what I mean?
I mean, you could argue like Ted Kennedy shaving votes off of Carter led to Reagan, and you can create a through line straight to Iran-Contra because he was already playing footsie with Iran. They just cracked open an old brew in terms of like, how do we arrange this money? Well, we got these friends in Iran we made during the lead up to the 1980 election. Why don't we use that to funnel money to the Contras? And so the idea that like we need an outsider, we need this kind of thing, maybe so. But how about this? Have those people run and become mayor. Have those people run and become governor for a long time. Not one Jesse Ventura run, but beyond that. Anyways, thanks, Boston Brian, for being with us today. Everybody check him out on Threads, where he's on there. And coming up in the next hour, our dear friend Philip Ittner is joining us. We're going to talk more about Ukraine. There is a lot.
What's up, Phil?
When the New York Times is talking about progress in Ukraine as far as the counteroffensive, something's up. We'll be back right after this. Thanks so much, Boston Brian. Everybody follow. We'll see you in a second.
Appreciate you, Hal.
Absolutely, brother. My pleasure. Cheers. And then we go to, I forgot. I have to put in the background for you on this one, Johnny. I think I've got to fix that. I do. And then we'll go to this guy. Hold on.
I got lower for the other angle. I'm gonna wait for Phil to come in before I know.
Hey, Phil, just shoot me a message when you're done, big guy. Hope you're having a great day, dude. Slava Ukraine.
Let's see, add this guy, and then I got to add a piece of minions, and then I got.
Sounds good, man.
I love how they're talking to each other, but I can't hear them. You guys can hear them. It's funny.
I can hear them.
Put this down. Whoops. There we go.
Yes. Oh, hi, Flora.
There you go. And
can you hear?
Whoops. Did it work? I didn't. I'm a silly person.
I thought he was getting angry about Flora.
Nope. There you go. There we
go. Not what she wants.
Okay, now now I've got to fix the you and Phil. There you go. Nope. Let's see. You and Johnny and Phil. Where's it? There we go. I'm gonna put this in here. And
sorry, everybody. Flora was not abiding a cuddle.
Right. It's cats make their own rules.
They do.
It's just how it works. Hold on. I need the background loop is what I need. There we go. Okay. Oops. Why did that happen? Okay. 1 second. Just fit it. There we go. And there we go. Move this down here. And then I'll put Philip in a second because I got to use the channel open by that Brian was on. Excellent. And there he is. Copy this. And then I'll be able to hear him finally. Get so many regular guests, I'm going to have to add extra guest accounts on. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And 3, 2, 1, pop. And hopefully it pops up there. That's excellent. Okay. And then scoot this over here. And see if this pops up right. Oh, did he pop in? Where is he? He was there a second ago. Let's do this. Copy again. I'll try it again. Oh, I know why. That's funny. He is there. Go to here. Go up one. There you go.
There we go.
He was just hidden behind a thing, as Johnny happens to be. It's the Johnny. It's yeah, as is wont to happen. I'm sorry, I'm moving you around, Johnny. I'm trying to get that curved corner out of the top.
It's bad on my lower back.
Is it? I'm sorry. Apologize. This way. Yep, that'll help. So, oops. Yeah, but more or less.
It bleeds into me.
There you go. I got it. I fixed it.
Now you got it.
You got it.
Yeah. It takes a little time. Whew. Okay. I'm fine.
I had not seen this New York Times thing. It just dropped 2 hours ago, so I must have missed it. I took a little nap in the afternoon.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's.
No, we're not on, right? No, we're not on. Right?
Yeah. Not yet.
The fucking New York Times. Jesus Christ.
Right. I know.
Just fucking playing games with these people.
Right.
Also that they can get attention and clicks. One day they're all the offensive's going great. One day it's all doom and gloom. It's all just about manipulating their audience.
Right. Well, I mean, it depends on the editor. Yeah, it looks like it all depends on the editor that's in charge and whatever the goal of as far as clicks is that day. It's really odd.
Yeah.
But at the same time, luckily it doesn't change the material factor on the ground. And the reality is that.
Well, but it's what I've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chicago. Thank you.
Hey, Phil.
We'll talk about it on air.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. Incredibly frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
This manipulation. It's
here.
It's very frustrating.
Yes, it is indeed. There it is.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out at me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back to the show. Joining us right now, live from Ukraine, is our dear friend Philip Ittner. And as always, we will start off by saying, "How you doing, man?" They've been the Russians have renewed attacks on Kiev, and that always concerns us. And we in the audience are always your mom.
Nope. Mom is still too fresh in the grave for that joke to work, Hal.
Well, I mean, metaphorically,
it's okay.
We all care.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. I get the point. Look, it sucks. It sucks. It sucks getting shot at. It sucks being under fire. Yesterday was very intense in the morning. I was eyewitness to the Patriot missile system at work.
Wow!
I ran out on my balcony, and I just saw the streams, the trail, the missile trail. I took photographs, but I can't publish those kind of things.
Sure.
On Twitter or anything like that, because if you do that, I'm sure they've moved the missile battery by now, but you don't want to publish anything for fear of giving away where those missiles are located.
Or them trying to hit where they were and end up hitting somebody else just because, right?
Or hit us. Absolutely right. It's just irresponsible. And seeing as those Patriots are saving my life potentially, I have no desire to reveal their position, because the Russians could, by the smoke trail and by triangulation, figure out where the thing is.
Sure.
I am sure they have. I'm sure they've moved them by now, because it's a city, and so everybody saw them, and including probably some Russian spies that are here. So it's not like, I'm being a savior or anything like that. But at the same time, you don't want to be the guy who
of course.
provides the detailed information. So anyhow,
right.
So yeah, we've been under intense fire in Kiev, down in Odessa. I have a friend who just returned to Odessa, and I was speaking with her today. And while we were speaking, she came under air raid siren. I mean, they're lobbing stuff at us, and there's reports of Ukrainians lobbing stuff back into Crimea. Just today, apparently, there is some sort of something's happening on the bridge, and there are early reports that maybe the Ukrainians tried firing a couple of S-200 and S-300 anti-aircraft missiles at the bridge, and that they were shot down. And there's this massive smoke plume over the bridge, and it could very well be that is Russian defenses. We do know that they've employed that before by putting kind of a smoke screen over the bridge so that it obscures optics to target the bridge itself. So folks may be seeing photographs or video of the Kerch Bridge like encased in smoke. I would urge them not to get overly excited, because I think that is a smoke screen. I do not think that's
literally
damage from any.
Yes,
literally a physical smoke screen that the Russians have installed, and we've seen them use it before.
Yeah,
this isn't the first time, but it is a defensive measure that they have. So I wouldn't get ahead of myself.
Sure.
When it comes to the Kerch Bridge.
Now there are a couple of there's lots to cover, not the least of which
lots to talk about.
Yeah. And we will get into a bunch of it. The Kerch Bridge being apparently either the Russians know it's a target and that's what's happening, and it is just going to be increasingly under fire until it is totally not functional. It seems like that's the next big stage. If you were strategically from the Ukrainians have done, test hits on it multiple times that have brought it to its knees for a little bit, and then they managed to do a workaround. And effectively, the Russians have always threatened, well, that's that, and we're going to, open up a fresh can of Vosmastnyev on everybody, and it doesn't turn out to be the case. And so at a certain point, it looks like they're just, all right, let's just knock it out then. And from a strategic standpoint, I would say, tactically, that if I was advising them, I would say the Kerch Bridge has just got to go. That just end it. Let's just finish the back and forth on that. Otherwise, they can bring in too many forces and bring in too many innocent people, continue to feed civilians into the area and use them as human shields and all that kind of stuff. They need to scare everybody and get them to start bugging out. And they can do ferries. They can get people out. And striking that bridge is one thing. You can guarantee that no civilian will be struck on a ferry going back and forth, and give them the benefit of the doubt on every boat that goes across, because it's so slow. They wouldn't be able to backfill weapons and all that kind of stuff, hiding it under that anyways. So that should maybe already is the next big move. And it seems to be either the Russians or
the Ukrainians are going to keep shooting at it. The Ukrainians are going to keep devising ways to destroy it. For all the reasons you just mentioned. But it's very high on the target list,
right,
when it comes to the Ukrainians. So, and the Ukrainians have proven themselves to be very, very cunning and use unexpected techniques.
Right.
So who's to say?
The other big target is Melitopol. That liberating Melitopol, which is one of the cities, biggest cities I guess taken in the initial invasion, is a big deal. And there are now, according to reports, this is Forbes reporting this, but Ukrainian scouts are inside Robatnya. the first Russian strongpoint on the road to Melitopol, as they put it. Liberating the city of Melitopol from its Russian occupiers is one of the top objectives of Ukraine's long-anticipated southern counteroffensive, but the Russian garrison to Tolmak stands between the Ukrainian counteroffensive corps and Melitopol, and the garrison in Robotyne stands between Ukrainians and Tokmak. So they've moved inside, and that's what we're relating that story about the New York Times finally sort of coming around and saying, real progress has been made. They broke through into this area, and once they start holding this area, again, you're doing this, the Russians then doing counterinsurgency, which is way harder for them than, and then their choice is only to level places, I suppose.
The question has always been whether, well, I say always, the question has been during the counteroffensive whether or not they were going to strike southeast towards Melitopol, which would put them within striking distance of Crimea. Certainly the western side of the peninsula would fall under range of some of the artillery that the Ukrainians have, or whether or not they would go due east from Zaporizhia and try and regain Mariupol, which would be an enormous victory for Ukraine. It would split the land bridge in two. It would return Mariupol to Ukrainian authority. And Mariupol is an incredibly important, not only symbolic, but strategically. Did
I say
so
Melitopol? Yeah,
that
Mariupol,
was a huge question. Well, there's Mariupol and there's Melitopol.
Okay,
Melitopol is southeast along the coast, near the lands that lead to the various bridges and isthmus and ways that you can get onto the Crimean Peninsula. So that's Melitopol. Mariupol is a larger city. It's a larger city than Melitopol. I don't know specifically, so don't hold me to this, but I would bet Melitopol is a city of maybe 300,000 to 500,000, and Mariupol is more like 700,000 plus.
Right.
Again, don't hold me to that. That's just kind of my guesstimate.
Mm-hmm.
But Mariupol is incredibly important symbolically because that is a major city. It is one of the most important port cities on the Sea of Azov, which lies between Ukraine and Russia. So that's hugely important for so many different reasons, not just symbolically, but also because Mariupol at the beginning of this war was a place that bogged down the Russians because they couldn't just bypass it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's equally important going the other direction, is that if the Ukrainians can take it back, it'll be a major foothold for them to defend against, again, if the Russians try and counteroffensive.
Right.
Anyhow, so it looks like they're headed for Melitopol because Tokmak is kind of a very important kind of roadway hub. So, but look, we'll see. But this New York Times article that just dropped today about, the Ukrainians are making progress. Well, I mean, great. I'm glad that the New York Times is recognizing that we're not looking at, they're quoting it as Ukrainian troops advancing 10 to 12 miles along a line of attack.
Right.
Well, yeah, okay, but we have been saying for quite some time, those of us on the ground here, that they're not going to be sweeping maneuvers of blitzkrieg and spearheads and gaining, hundreds of kilometers in one fell swoop and surrounding, Russian positions. This is a slow and steady march. This is take 5 miles today, take 3 miles tomorrow, take maybe 10 miles the next day.
Yep.
It's slow and steady wins the race. And it's frustrating for me to see an expectation in Western media of, if we don't see these extravagant, massive grabs of land, then all is lost, and the Ukrainians are losing, and everything is falling apart, and there's no point to any of it. And it's not, that's not the case. The morale in the military, I can attest to that firsthand, is very high. They're still, they're not losing. So, thanks, New York Times.
For finally acknowledging reality.
Too little, too late.
Right. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. And then, of course, our dear friend Philip Ittner is joining us from Kiev, where he has been under fire in the last week in a way we've not seen, I think, since the beginning of the war in some ways. We'll talk more about it when we come back, but major progress is being made, and it's and you can tell because even the people who hate to recognize it are finally recognizing it. We'll be back. This is footage
cute
of
little
a
fox.
It's a
I love this video.
Yeah, it's a footage of a
Curious
soldier.
little fox.
Yeah. It was like I left.
coyote?
It's I think it might be a well. It's depends
a
on
fox.
whatever.
That's
it's a fox.
No, it's we don't have coyotes.
But it's yeah. Look at that sweetheart.
Oh.
And he tries to bite. He's like, "Can I eat this guy?" Or he's moving.
Yeah,
Never
you got to
mind.
test them for eating.
Believe me, one of the reasons why this cute little guy is sniffing around, first of all, you're seeing how humans domesticated canines in the first place, because that's how it all started thousands of years ago. But it started exactly like that moment. But the other reason you're seeing is that this little guy probably has had a meal or two from people laying around.
Yep.
That's why he's...
Are foxes carrion feeders? I don't know if they do that.
Yes, they're scavengers.
I don't know.
I
don't know enough. Are they scavengers? They
will.
They carry it. They
all
will.
deer
We're coming back.
will eat. Standard whitetail deer will eat meat if they stumble
You're
upon
locked
it.
into
They
the
need.
House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. So, again, so much stuff happening. I was showing on infotainmentwars.com and at twitch.tv/HouseSparks, where you should subscribe today and help the show and the yada yada. There was this video, and we see I go through a lot of these like pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian Telegram channels to kind of get a balance of what everybody's saying is happening in these places. And I have to say, the Russian Telegram channels are not happy these days. And the one thing and not just them, but the one thing I wanted to bring up with you, Phil, was the conversation about the ruble that Solovyev had this week.
Ooh, where he lost his mind.
Yes. So maybe explain to people what give him the backstory on who he is and why him reacting this way is kind of telling.
So Solovyev is a talk show host. He's how to describe him? I don't know. He's
the Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh of Russia.
But he's got a Hannity. He's got that bluster of Hannity, but then he kind of also has the kind of like theatrics of Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. And he's a blowhard.
Yeah,
but he's a blowhard who has a space in Russia's
they listen to him.
Television.
Well, that's why I said Sean Hannity, because Sean Hannity
huge.
actually genuinely during January 6th, we know from the January 6th committee and the evidence that Sean Hannity was talking to Trump and his family members in an attempt to, basically alter his position, policy, or ideas or behavior during January 6th. That's where Solovyev is. He's got the red phone, right?
Yeah, and he lost his mind when the ruble took a major dive this week. I want to say it was around Tuesday or Wednesday that it fell to one of the worst currencies in the world.
It is now at a 25-year low against 4 other currencies. And the biggest one is the Indian rupee. The Indian rupee is now worth 1.16 rubles, which it has never been above 1 ruble ever, insofar as I know, even at the worst that the ruble was doing. And when you're trying to remember all that talk about BRICS, that makes India's position in BRICS a lot more powerful. Especially considering, that gives them a more powerful currency than the yuan against the ruble. So that
haven't you heard the BRICS is going to come out with a currency any day now that is going to destroy the dollar.
Yes,
it's going to destroy the dollar.
I heard Trump saying that 2 days ago.
The rupee, seeing as the rupee is now more powerful than the ruble, then there, maybe the rupee is going to be the currency that gets adopted.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, right. If you can't tell, I'm dripping with sarcasm with that. It's
Yes.
this is look, the Russian economy is not going to get better. The rupee, I'm sorry, the ruble.
Mhm.
The ruble is in terrible. I mean, so much so that I think I saw yesterday that buying foreign currency has now been blocked. You can't, if you're a Russian citizen inside Russia, you can no longer go to the bank, buy a bunch of dollars with your rubles, and hope that, in so doing, stop the bleeding. And
Yeah.
I saw this in the 90s. In '98, there was the devaluation of the ruble. Was one of the major things that led to the powers that be within Moscow searching for somebody to replace Yeltsin. And I remember the runs on the banks. I very clearly remember lines of huge lines of people waiting at banks to turn in their rubles to get the more secure Western currency, usually the dollar. And they've already, cut that off, before it gets crazy, because they also clearly remember the 90s. So no Russian right now can buy dollars legally. There's, I'm sure, a black market, but that tells you a lot. It tells you a lot of what the situation is internally within Russia.
Well, and their relationship with these 4 other countries. Specifically the BRICS currencies that they were going to leverage against. Again, the part that stands out to me the most about the BRICS crypto that they were going to set up is that it was going to be a stable coin pegged to the US dollar, so that they wouldn't argue amongst themselves about its worth. Do you have it? Yeah. Then all 4 of those countries need the dollar to be stable, or their interspersed digital currency that they're going to use would collapse. Why is that a plan? Yeah. I don't know. That just guarantees the US dollar's value, because they're now responsible for keeping it functioning. Like, good Lord. So, I mean, there's a lot to cover. I think probably one of the biggest things is Zelensky's purge of corruption.
I'm glad you brought it up.
In the country. And I want to, we want to talk about some of that, because this is what's supposed to happen. And I can't wait for the Joe Biden video in a couple of years, after leaves office in 2029, where he, sits down at the CFK, the Council for CFR, the Council of Foreign Relations, and says, I told them, if they don't get rid of these guys who are taking, who are stealing all this money, and get rid of them, we're not giving you the money. And son of a bitch, they did, right? That was the story.
Yeah, it's so what they've done is what Zelensky has called for is a blanket removal of all the regional heads of the conscription offices.
Right.
So all the places where men are called to go and sign up and join the armed forces. Well, there was a lot of backdoor dealing about, like, I'll just say I ain't seen you if you give me a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 bucks. We'll just say we can't find you.
Yeah.
Because nobody look, as patriotic and as mobilized as this country is right now, of course there are people who don't want to go fight in a war.
Right.
I mean, that's against your basic human nature. It's
or you might just be afraid. You don't want to die, but like, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Sure. I mean, it's obvious, so there are going to be people like that in any situation. But the fact is that there were just repeated instances of these guys taking bribes, of these guys misappropriating funds that are supposed to be going to, getting guys mobilized. And so Zelensky just said, you know what? It's too widespread. Just sweep everything out, and we'll get other people. And then what he said, and this is Zelensky's, I mean, I hate to engage in idol worship, or but,
right.
He's an amazing leader. Here's what he said after he swept all these guys out, saying it's too widespread. What we're going to do is we're going to assign new regional heads, but every single one of them has to have been wounded or have been fought on the front lines and is no longer has had to have physically served in frontline combat units, because those are the guys that know that when you misappropriate funds, people die in war, and that this isn't just some frivolous kind of like I'm just gonna line my pockets a little bit. It won't matter.
Right.
So Zelensky, being the just very smart man that he is when it comes to this optics as well as operational, is get the people who know what it means when criminality and fraud and all the rest of it takes place within the armed forces. It's perfect. It's a genius move, and it takes the wind out of the sails of a lot of people saying, "Oh, all Ukraine is a bunch of
corrupt." Well, the problem is when you have a situation where the news talks about corruption, when you solve it as if it's a sign that there's corruption, when it is a sign of the exact opposite. That's the most aggravating part, and I think you're absolutely right that he handled it the exact right way. We got to take a break in a minute, but we're going to take some questions for Phil from our chat room as we usually do. Johnny Millions farming those, and then I have some. Yeah, I know. I blazes by. There's a lot to talk about, and not the least of which is that there's huge amounts of tactical movement going on, as well as the political aspects of the story. So we'll talk about that after we come back from the break. But I just want to remind people to get their questions ready. Also, patreon.com/HalSparks support the show, and you can Venmo us, and you can just help out, make the show exist, and then there's ads. We'll be back. Okay, I'm looking up. There's another piece of this. Where is it? There he is. So, and
what's
you
the
got
story
some.
You want to talk about? The next one coming up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the questions that are there, whatever. But I think essentially it's the stuff around Crimea. In terms of them using more of those drone ships.
We can maybe start with a question like Dunn Boston Brian asked, has Philip heard of the Russians that were arrested for posting their videos of the Russian air defense locations?
I saw a vlogger got arrested, but no, I hadn't seen that specific thing. Let me take a look.
Yeah, here, is this it? Yeah, I think so. Hold on. Chongar, Tonka bridges. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so they hit the Chongar Bridge, and right, that was the other one too. That the one with the hole in it. We talked about that, I think, on Wednesday. But on top of the Kerch, let's see. Yeah, there was a. These are the tankers. Okay, trying to find like I have footage somewhere of the bridge being, them basically putting up like like I don't know if it's even like not just the anti-missile stuff, but counteroffensive where they were like floating these like buoys in the area to just stop stuff from hitting it. They're trying everything to keep it from getting hit. And then I'm trying to find video where that I can actually show. And then the Belarus thing where apparently this was a big piece of news too, that Belarus apparently was under the impression that Russia was going to pay for the Wagner guys to be there, and they're not. So now they're starting to, thanks. Now they're brooming them out.
Not sure about that story.
Right.
I think that's a lot of more machinations regarding the erosion. I'll believe it.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. We do have many questions, not just mine, for Philip. So let's grab some from the chat room, shall we, Johnny Million?
Sure thing. Yeah, I threw this out during the break. Then Boston Brian was asking if Phil had heard about Russians that were arrested for posting their videos of the air defense locations.
Yeah, I know there's an instance out in Kramatorsk where that happened just recently. And then there was a conviction today of a vlogger, but I don't know if he was putting out photographs. But look, I'm not terribly surprised that there are people on the ground inside Russia who are, putting stuff out there because they're against the war is not popular. The war is not popular in Russia. It is being the opposition to the war is being repressed brutally. With really bad arrests and the threat of extensive
prison sentences.
Prison sentences and the rest. So, it doesn't surprise me at all that that's happening. It doesn't surprise me that the Russians are responding that way. So, yeah.
So, yeah, let's grab another one, Johnny.
So from Task View, was Phil surprised by John Sweeney's recent video from Ukraine in which he says Putin is starting to win this phase of the war?
John, that's not exactly what John said. John said that he might be getting the upper hand in this phase of the war. He was very, very cautious. I speak to John all the time. We go and have a weekly lunch, basically. There's growing frustration on the ground here in Ukraine that the West has not really handled this very well. They didn't give weapons when it was urgent. They didn't do anything during the 8-month period where there was the buildup in the anticipation of the counteroffensive, and that allowed the Russians to deeply entrench themselves. Whereas if they'd had, for example, the ATACMS long range, the ATCMS missile system, which is shot from the HIMARS, which we already gave them, but it's about 200 miles farther that they can shoot. The Ukrainians could have been disrupting the building of the defensive infrastructure that happened. And so now all these criticisms coming from the West of, you're not moving quickly enough. The Ukrainians and John, and in support of the Ukrainians, basically is saying you can't. It's really kind of disingenuous to be so hypercritical of the Ukrainians when we didn't give them the tools to do the job. And everybody knew it. Of course, everybody knew it. So look, I don't think John is saying that it's all doom and gloom and woe, but Putin, indeed. I mean, right now he's there are advantages. There are things on the ground that are happening that he could take advantage of in the information war and in things like that. And the Ukrainians are not gaining ground as had been hoped. We've already kind of discussed that. I'm sure that John was not falling into the group of folks saying all is lost. But I'll have lunch with him this week, and if I've got, I don't want to put words in his mouth, so maybe he is. We'll have lunch, and I'll get back to you.
Well, one of the things that I think in the back and forth about whether or not we send stuff and what stuff we send and the long range versus short range weapons and defensive weapons and all that stuff has been this entire tiptoe set up by a narrative created by Moscow that this is all part of NATO expansion and we're to blame and all this stuff. So what you have is NATO countries and the West and any ally of Ukraine tiptoeing while Russia stomps. And they're doing it because of the criticism that is carried by the tankies among us and the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world and people who just couldn't give a crap. And so that slow walked a lot of stuff.
Terrified of the war.
Yes.
Who are also legitimately terrified of the war. Russia is a nuclear power. I mean, that's a legitimate concern. But, it's if you're gonna let him be a bully when it comes because he's got nukes, Well, then I got news for you. He's always going to play that card. He's always just going to constantly be playing that card. I mean, I saw today that the Germans are proposing giving these cruise missiles, following in step with the UK. Previously, they'd said they were waiting for us to give ATACMS, but now there's talk that they may give them, the Taurus cruise missile, shot from.
But program them so that they cannot fly into Russia. Right. Great.
There you go. Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
That's great. It's 2023. Knock yourself out. I think that's a great idea. Like, we're going to program these so they will, if they're headed towards the Russian border and they're going to cross it, as we understand the Russian border, they're going to loop around and find the nearest target. There you go. That's it. And if you fire it that far back in it, that's just what's going to happen. So program it to go where you want it to go, but not past this line. And that's, I mean, again, it's 2023. We can GPS almost anything. So why not? Now, part of the other news, and I do want to address this too, is the fact that this is an interactive map that I'm showing on infotainmentwars.com and on our website right now. This is that's where the Kerch Bridge is, and this is in the last 8 hours. There was an explosion at the Kerch Bridge, and then the Russians said they shot down 2 missiles after saying 3 missiles were fired in their direction. So if they shot down 2 of them and there's smoke on the bridge and traffic on the bridge has stopped, one might assume, and we shall see, obviously it will play out, there's always a delay in this, and it is still smoking. Again, I think you're right that they might have put up a smoke screen to cover while they get people out, or while they cover something, or while they, whatever they're doing.
Or in anticipation of further attacks.
Right. Just as that's the only defense they have. But it says they say an S-200 missile was shot down near the bridge, and that's down from 1. So that's the interesting part. So 7 hours ago, something hits the bridge, an explosion, whatever it is. Then right after it, they said we shot down 2 missiles, and then they say we shot down 1 missile, and everybody's adding that up and making it 3 missiles instead of. Maybe they shot at 2 and they hit 1 of them. But either way, there is footage of them using anti-missile defense systems over the bridge itself, launching them after the fact, and still an explosion at the bridge. Those air defenses, the smoke from those air defenses and all that stuff is not coming from the bridge itself. That's nearby. That's another site. So regardless, I mean, it's always going to be smoke when it comes from the Russian Ministry of Defense, but it looks like there was another hit.
It's potentially another hit. Who knows how bad it was? They're going to protect that bridge as best they can. The Russians are, and they're. I hate underestimating the Russians. It's not something I think it's advisable. This is a major country with major technological abilities, and I mean the fact that the drones have been able to get through into Moscow, Ukrainian drones that have struck Moscow in the last 2 weeks, give or take. Well, that's because that's a new technology, and also because
it's small. It's not their stuff might be built for airplanes, right?
That's right. It flies at an elevation that is just above the surface, and it's a new technology, as is always the case with war. One offensive capability gives a side an advantage until a defense against that offensive capability is found, and the Russians have yet to find a defensive capability against Ukrainian drones. I suspect that eventually they will, but for now, clearly they're not. When it comes to a traditional missile system like an S-200 and S-300, that is a known quantity. So the Russians are more capable of striking that down. Now, maybe some debris fell, or maybe there was a direct strike. We'll know within a day. We'll know within 24 hours, and most likely far less than that. We'll probably know it's evening now, so we'll probably know at first light. So in the next 12 hours or so.
One of the other stories that's up is and I kind of love this because they use these icons on this map that I use to look at the most recent strikes and what's going on. and they have a special icon for any hits inside of Russia, like you're talking about, the drone strikes or explosions. That's just a cigarette. And the icon for it, they're bombs for bombs, and artillery fire has little bullets, that show where stuff is happening. But when it comes to any strike inside of Russia in proper, they often show this little cigarette, which I find hilarious. There's some other ones behind enemy lines as well. But one of the other pieces that came up, and I was trying to bring this up, in Novozorin, occupied Crimea, overnight, Russian Ministry of Defense claims shooting down 14 drones and intercepting 6 more with electronic warfare capabilities. And again, in this case, they're either telling the truth or they're saying, we shot down 16, but they sent 25, and the other ones got through. And they're trying to brag to the people that are there. We got most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's one of the main strikes. Now, the area that I find interesting in the battle right now, and I'm showing this again on at twitch.tv/HalSparks. I have an interactive map of the actual fighting that's going on, and it is fantastically quiet in one particular area that has of late been a big breakthrough area. So the areas surrounding it, I think, are the most kind of amazing. And once they crossed the Dnipro and got into some of these areas, this mainly, like the Russians are trying to fire past, and I because I can't speak the language and whatever, they have to translate it. This is you can probably read it, but it's very small in there. Sorry, Phil, but it's I'll see if I'll see if I can point this through. But this is near Zaporizhia, and they were doing airstrikes on the other side of the Dnipro, trying to stop people from crossing. This is what the armed forces of Ukraine are reporting. But they had crossed the river, and as I'm showing on the terrain now, there's a huge chunk headed towards Tokmak, and this is where people were talking about earlier, where they're in Robotyne, headed towards Tokmak. And Tokmak has an air base, and it's a major junction point for all the roads. It's also where the train tracks go through. So the reclamation of Tokmak is a major step forward, and this enormous area where the Ukrainians have taken it back, it is probably the single biggest gain of ground I've seen since the beginning of this, and it happened in the last 48 hours. So maybe that's why the New York Times is finally coming around to this is working, right?
Yeah, we're talking. I mean, I'm looking at the map there. We're still not talking, huge chunks of land, but it is 10 or 15 miles or something like that in one fell swoop. For the way that the Ukrainians are fighting this war, fighting this counteroffensive, that's a pretty significant. But I've said this again. This is not contradictory to what I have been saying all along with these guys.
Right.
Is that they're going to move the entire line up as best they can. Now, when it comes, if they find something that they can exploit, they're going to take advantage of it. But they're not going to overextend themselves. So they're not going to do a deep run in 50, 60, 100 miles into one direction or another, so that they can then circle back around and encircle Russian army groups. That ain't going to happen. But if they see a way to do, and Tokmak is an objective. So this is
and maybe most of this is the conversation about Zelensky getting rid of the corruption and that kind of stuff eats up some of the conversation that's available online. But like I said, even the New York Times is admitting this is a breakthrough moment for them, and being in Robotyne period is a huge deal. And the area around what they took, it's not like they just it says scouts are there, which is one thing, but the map is showing that they've reclaimed the territory around it, and that the Russians are bombing past the line on the other side, trying to slow it down. It seems it's like that's the kind of bombing you do when you're covering a retreat. We got to take a break, and we'll be back right after this with more of Phil and your questions at infotainmentwars.com on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. this is, it's so funny that it seems small by comparison, but if you look at like, say, chunk of town, that's Robotnia. Yeah, so they're actually saying in this map, if I may, hold on 1 second, I'll fade to, there we go. Here's Robotnia. Where is it? Right here. So this is beyond, by the time the reporting came out that there were scouts there, they had already taken back this area. This is all the confirmed.
Yeah, and it's on the other side of the river. That's another big deal.
It is a huge deal. Yeah. So, and then the Russians were hitting behind them, seemingly to either stop their ammunition coming or to blow up an area nearby where they were coming through. But that's not that far. There you go. That's if you lived in this area and you were GPSing a trip downtown, that's a 15-minute drive. What do you think? Something like that?
Yeah, the crow flies.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a 1 mile grid point or whatever. Yeah.
It's so frustrating because it's exactly what some grand, and even not just like a movie, but this isn't some sort of like, I really, really want this to happen. So come on, chop chop, let's go.
Yeah,
no, it's just, we're gonna do it at the pace that we can do it with losing the least amount of Ukrainian soldiers as we possibly can. And we're not going to overextend ourselves and take undue risks because we can continue to push. And I don't think also, by the way,
thank you,
that I also don't think, by the way, that Western support is going to be that quick to evaporate. So they've got some time, and there's more time left in this fighting season. So let's just all let the Ukrainians do what they're.
Well, it seems
I am
like
happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together. Whether the weather is cloudy or sunny, I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together. Whether the weather is cloudy or breezy, I'll be there to say, hey, come on.
Everybody, thanks very much for joining us this
'Cause
morning.
isn't it
I'm
nice
Maria
to have the friends that
Barturomo, and it
you
is
do?
Thursday,
And isn't it
August
nice to have
10th.
the
It is
sky
8
blue?
a.m. on the
And
button
isn't
on
it
the
nice
East
to
Coast.
say
Shut up,
everybody
Maria.
chicka chicka choo choo woo? I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together. Whether the weather is cloudy or stormy, I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! So, I normally don't like to do the Schadenfreude version of it or whatever, but as we've been talking about for the last little bit, it is being widely reported that smoke from the bridge is stopping traffic.
Smoke.
The black smoke is a big deal.
There's
That's the
black
difference.
Smoke in there.
The white
But
smoke
I don't-
seems to be,
I mean-
and that might be covering
Yeah.
satellite images because they don't want people to know right away how bad it is. That's what I mean.
That
Again,
also
it's
is
not.
true.
It's not going to stop anything that's coming in because why wouldn't they just hit another part of it? It's not a singular target. They're like, oh my God, that's the Death Star spot on the Kirsch Bridge. You can hit it someplace else. The only reason to hide it with smoke, in theory, at that particular point, other than they think maybe the first hit weakened it and they could hit it again and they keep chipping away at the same spot, which is not necessary. As a matter of fact, you'd want to break it up over 3 places and make it difficult to constantly repair so that not all the teams are in one place, whatever. But they have stopped traffic. Eyewitness on social media report that they heard explosions. At the same time, from the photos and videos published, it can be seen that smoke rises from several different places on the bridge. The movement of vehicles on the Crimean Bridge was temporarily blocked by Russian invaders. After that, Coast Guard boats rushed to the bridge. And again, temporarily is the theory.
As I say, it's already it's close to 9 o'clock in the evening here. The sun has set quite some time ago. We will not know for sure. So in another, as I say, another 10 to 12 hours.
Right.
The black smoke, it hits, obviously something has been hit.
Yeah.
But was it debris? How much damage was done? Was it,
Right.
It's just one of those things where it's just going to have to be a wait and see situation. The thing I keep encouraging people when everybody keeps asking me questions, and that's fine, that's why I'm here, but is that war is going to unfold the way war is going to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot rush it. You cannot anticipate it except be kind of within certain metrics.
Right.
War is one of those things that just develops as it develops, and it's like You
Mhm.
know, I don't know. An analogy would be maybe, you know, somebody who's got an illness, and you just kind of have to go through the process of going through an illness. You'll heal when you heal, or you know, things are going to develop as things are going to develop. I I just urge everybody not to get ahead of themselves when they're trying to.
Mhm.
There's so
Yeah.
much expectation and
Yeah, I
so
mean,
much.
well, the big thing is this should have
Yeah,
been over in 6 days, and so the idea that it's dragging on and turning into a real war is the Russians are trying to turn a weakness into a strength by saying, "Look how long this is dragging on." Like, dude, you started it. This was supposed to be over
yeah,
quickly. When you guys, your plan was 2 weeks. So so if
yeah.
it's dragging on, it's because you're losing, not the other way around, or the other side refuses to give up, and that's and has the support of every democracy loving country in the world. That said, and I want to get your thoughts on this, and we'll get some more questions as well. But the lead investigator at Bellingcat, this guy Christo Grozev,
Yes.
said that
Hmm.
he goes either Prigozhin is going to be killed or there's going to be another coup. Like all this thing about like Prigozhin running around Russia, with I mean, I don't know what that deal was or what it was even pretending to be at this point. We talked a little bit about this story that's coming out that apparently Russia said they were, Belarus was under the impression that
Belarus.
Russia was under the impression
Belarus
that Russia
thought
was
that
going to pay for
Moscow was
Wagner
gonna
forces,
put
and
the
they're
bill.
not. Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
look,
hard to know if that's true, but yeah.
I look. This is another thing where I just, it's going to play out how it's going to play out. Prigozhin lives and breathes and is not in prison because Putin doesn't want him there.
Right.
For one reason or another, if Prigozhin draws breath because Putin wills it so. Putin has limits on his power. Killing Prigozhin is well within his power, or chucking him into a pit and some gulag in Siberia is well within his power. So he is in Belarus because Putin wants him there. The dramatics that Lukashenko is playing, kind of on the open stage, I would take with a huge grain of salt, because Lukashenko likes to pretend that he is sovereign, and that he can push back against the Kremlin. But if Putin tells Lukashenko, the Wagner guys are going to be on your soil because I can't have them here in Russia, but I still have use for them, Lukashenko is going to say, yes, sir. Can I have another, sir? It's just, that's what Lukashenko does. So I wouldn't get ahead of myself here in this situation either, in terms of like Wagner getting kicked out. I have huge respect for Bellingcat. They know they're incredibly capable of what they do. And I see the validity in making that assessment. But I don't think that because I still think, and I am not, this is not a widely held opinion, but I still stand by it, in that Prigozhin is a useful tool for Putin. He is in the boyar class, and there is a coming fight within the boyars, because the Tsar is weak. And when the Tsar is weak, the boyars circle and they arrange for fights, and Prigozhin's going to be part of that when the fighting comes. I don't think a second rebellion, I think rebellion is a wrong word to use for what Prigozhin did or would do within the next 6 months. Per Bellingcat's report, I don't think it might be a rebellion. I think that within the next 6 months, you could see Prigozhin, exerting his, and by extension Putin's will, on the other boyars, that there might be an open fight between Shoigu, or Kadyrov, the head of the Chechen militias, and Prigozhin, so that there's a dominant warlord that can then come to heel under the Tsar. I'm kind of getting a little bit wider and wider out there, but Prigozhin is playing a very dangerous game. He could end up dead, or he could be involved in some sort of conflict internally within Russia. On whose side, we don't know, but the fact he's not dead or in a prison already tells you he's not.
It's very telling, right?
Putin still has a use for him.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, or can't get rid of him. I mean, it's another thing. You know, the other aspect is that he's
There's
not
the Africa angle.
Right. Well, and that's even growing because of the conflict in Niger, and the backstory around that, where the last time America lost a big swath of soldiers, that before our exit from Afghanistan, was in Niger, was a bunch of guys getting bad mission intel and ending up running from what were effectively Wagner-backed separatist forces and being tortured to death. And that, much of that got there. I mean, there were two major things that happened. That and the Battle of Kanoko Field, which was in Syria, where Wagner mercs attacked and that they knew was being guarded by U.S. forces, and got their ass handed to them. Quite frankly, it resulted in a huge number of Wagner deaths. But the purposing of having those soldiers in those places, and then Trump eventually just moved us out. I mean, if you look at who won that battle, you could argue that Putin did, because what was Trump's response? Even though we won that exchange, he used it as a pretext, like, it's not safe, we got to get out. Well, maybe those Wagner guys were sent there to attack U.S. forces just to create the pretext for Trump to leave that area anyways, and hand over those oil wells to Wagner and Assad-linked groups. That will be worked out in history books in the future, I have no doubt. But in Niger right now, what's going on, and it's interesting that so much awful has happened in Africa right now. It's like a worldwide distraction from what's going on in Ukraine to some degree. It's the only thing that's risen to the level of story that the Ukrainian war has. And it happened right around the time that Wagner was like, we're getting out of Ukraine. We're going to send all of our long contracts are in Africa, and after the coup. Once that happened, Africa became a tinderbox again in a bunch of places.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't be a mistake. We're out of town for this hour, and I appreciate you being here. Thanks to everybody in the chat room for joining us. And don't forget, Philip Ittner has a YouTube channel where you can look at his vlogs and the like. He is in Kiev, and he is at the front of this, unfortunately, more so than just saying. But also, thank you, Johnny Million. Thank you, Chicago. And we will see you guys next week. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And remember, if you're ever confronted with a decision that you think is the lesser of two evils, choose less evil. See you next time.
Policy.
It is.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you on Wednesday, Hal.
Yes, please. I have the jam on Tuesday night, and Wednesday morning I'll see you. So if I'm a little bagged out, that'll be why. I might just be extra tired because I'm opening the show with Up All Night by Slaughter, and I think it would be, I guess I have to stay up all night after that.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the rule. I think that's the hair metal rule. So thanks a ton, brother. I appreciate it. Be safe.
All right, man.
And we will see you soon.
Always.
Okay. And Johnny, hang there for a second. Thank you.
Love ya.
Hold on. There he is. I'm going to transition to this guy. There he is. Johnny Billiard, ladies and gentlemen. It's Johnny Billiard on the Twitch machine. Don't forget to subscribe to him. Subscribe. Following is good. Subscribing is better.
It is.
And I have to say, Johnny Million, I need to take a moment at the end of the show, just because I have to. And love you, Chicago. They already took off. I didn't hear them in that transfer, but I think it's because we were chit-chatting. But I'm loving your clips on Threads.
Oh, goody.
I'm loving watching you play, and I'm loving I
saw you repost one the other day. Thank you.
Yes, well, because I pay attention, friend, and I'm just very excited about that, and it makes my heart swell that people are finally getting what I have known all along, that Johnny Million is one of the great guitar players, and so shall it be, and so says I. So I'm just happy. That's all. It's a boo. So, and then the cats haven't come down, so I can't turn on the cat cam, which I have installed.
No cat cam.
But I recommend you setting one up and get one of those Elgato foot switches so that you don't have to stop playing.
Foot switch?
Yeah, so Elgato has desk buttons, but they've also got a stomp button, like a foot switch, which you can use for all kinds of stuff, changing your lighting and OBS stuff.
Oh, and it'll switch over to a cat cam?
It'll switch on.
I'm gonna need a whole,
Yeah, all you got to do is take an old webcam, put it on the floor. That's what I did, and that's my cat cam now.
Yeah, I've got one.
We all do. They're all laying around. I'm just saying, who wouldn't want to see Flora just like enjoying the noise? Even if you just point it where she normally sleeps, you know what I mean? Just put it right. And if she goes and she's laying there, just cut to her while you're playing.
That's a pretty good idea.
And the foot pedal's the way to do it because you could bring it up and bring it out. I'm always thinking about you. I'm just thinking, like, how do we make it better for Johnny Million? That's all. So that's all I'm saying. I mean it. And I gotta go. It's Summer's birthday, but she's not even here. She's in Europe.
No, it's so crazy.
So I'm going to I'm spick and spanning the house today. I'm going through and like organizing a bunch of stuff and doing like every honeydew list thing that I can come up with.
Very nice.
That she's wanted to do, so that when she comes back, that was the birthday gift. Was that I mean, I've got a gift for her, and we're gonna go to dinner and all that too. But on her birthday, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's nice. It'll be fun. Hal's 24-hour cat cam coming soon. Yes, but only for it'll only furs, and it's going to be you have to pay. It's a paid subscription. Anyways, all right. See you later.
All right.
Thanks, brother.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. And thank you guys so much. Appreciate you being here. Let me turn this guy off, and I will see you guys Monday morning for the early show. Today's show blazed by, and thanks so much to Dan Boston Brian for coming in early. I know he meant to be, it meant it to be, it was an accident. He didn't mean to be here, but I was glad he was. It was totally lovely. He swore twice. We're gonna have to train him. It's a Boston thing. He said shit twice, but that on the air. He said it multiple times during the breaks. But we don't care. But he said bullshit and shit on the air. We're gonna work on it. So everybody, just when he does join the show, just fill the chat up with like, Boston, this is radio. Boston, this is not. So I'm just saying, it's totally fine. And these days, because of Donald Trump, quite frankly, you can say shit on the air and it's less of a issue. You can get by with it, and accidentally. But I would rather people hear everything he has to say, and it means they have to do a dump button for a couple seconds. So there you go. It's Boston. That's right. Remind him. A swear jar? It's not a bad idea. I'm not ruling it out. So shit is definitely the lesser of two evils. It's great. That is absolutely true. Hold on. Let me put this up. Hi, guys. How are you? And another thing. That's true. Sign Summer's birthday card on Twitter, Discord, and Threads. Yes, please do. Censoring words is so stupid. No, it's not. I don't mind it best when there could be kids listening. It's okay. We should all be, to some degree, on our best behavior. Like, if my show was on regular television or regular radio, I would not swear the way I do because it's live streaming. Could kids tune in? Sure. But there are gauges about how old you can be to have an account on YouTube, whether you can get access to only stuff that's below, ready for your age range, like whether it's made for kids or not. I appreciate all that stuff. I think that's a good thing. Can you search Threads for people? Yes, you can. So, where's Murphy? He's upstairs crying because every time I go out to the store, he thinks Summer's coming home. So he's so like, where is she? Is she going to TwitchCon in Paris? No. I am a trained thespian. It is true. Are we at 55K? I don't know. Should we check before the show? We gotta be. It wasn't even that many. We have to be there, right? We gotta have made it. What are we, too shy of it? Let's check. Could it be? Oh my God. We need 16 subscribers to hit 55K. 16. Come on. In chat room, come on. 16 of you must be in there that haven't subscribed. Just subscribe. Hit subscribe. 16. You can do it. I'm waiting. I'm not going. I'm just going to stand here. Do it. That's it. No, I'm just going to stand here. It's fine. It's fine. 16. I can't. Honestly. Just. Come on. Refresh the page and see what we got. That's 4. Okay, so we did 12 more. I'm not going anywhere. Sorry. I'm taking the internet hostage. Sorry. Thanks, William. Yeah, it's like voting. You can only do it once. 12, that's it. I'm waiting. Come on, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, do it. If you're on Facebook and you have a YouTube account, go ahead and do it. I'm not going anywhere. That's right. Just standing here. I'm not gonna do a show or anything. I'm putting my, damn it. Let's see. I'm gonna reload it. 9 more. We just need 9 subscribers. 9 more subscribers. We're almost there. We're almost there. It's so exciting. I can't believe it. I don't even know how to even. But 9 more. Oh, we can do it. Where's the YouTube link? Just go to infotainmentwars.com and subscribe. It's fine. I'm just gonna try and say that. Hold on. You got to try to find it. Should I have some music or something? Is there the sample? Yeah, I think it would go. Let's see. I don't know. We're close. How close are we? Have we cleared over? We've gotten. We're up to the thing. Oops. Oh, God, get back up. Go back there. 4 more. We need 4 subscribers right now. Come on. Here we do it. Let's do it. 55K. Let's do it. If we get there, I think we will. I'll do a special show tomorrow. And you're like, but you're alone in the house. You do it anyways. I know. Come on. All right. Let's come on. 4 more. We're almost there. We just do the reloading and see what happens. 3 more. We got 1. Thank you, whoever that was. We're 54,997. That's where we are right now. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe. You can do it if you're on one of the other sites. Just hop over there and subscribe, and you can go back to Twitch and Facebook and Twitter, whatever you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, come on. 55. We can do it. We're getting so close. 3 people. I know it can happen. I know it's possible. I believe in you guys. I know it's 55,001. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it. That's it. We hit it. And just all you got to do is now don't unsubscribe, you bastards. Just stay there. 55. We hit it. 55,001. Ladies and gentlemen. All right. That's right. Yes, we have done it. I was not expecting it. We're so excited. It's just an amazing moment for all of us, and you were here when it happened.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I know that. It's so great.
Like the guy said, you're gonna keep lightning, and you're gonna crop thunder.
55,000. I remember, and I'll tell you why this matters so much. Is because I remember, you guys recall this. You guys will remember when we couldn't hit 5K. Remember when I first started the show, and we were like, "What the hell is happening? Why are we below the? Why we keep getting stuck?" We were like, it just snagged at like 3,800, and then it snagged again at 4,200, and it's like, what the shit? Why won't it get it? What the hell? And then, and then it crested through. Same thing with 55,000. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, I feel like this is a shot across the bow. Keep subscribing, by the way. We're not trying to stop. We need next up 100K. I'm never going to be satisfied, but I am saying that we have hit 55K, and I appreciate it, because that means that really pulls that 100K in within our possibility, the realms of possibility. Every day, growth becomes possible. And the great thing is that it's 55,001. You know who you are. You certainly do. Real people, not just random BS, millions that are out there, but actual people who are actually here, who are actually a part of it, and I love you guys for it, and I'm excited, and it's so good. And anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. We have hit 55K. I can't believe it. No, that's the wrong one.
Groovy.
That's what I want.
Groovy.
All right.
Groovy.
We have hit it. Come on
Groovy.
now. All right. This is. I'm so excited. I'm gonna have a good day.
I'm dead sexy.
Hail to the king, baby.
That's right. You know it. 55K party. I wish I had graphics built for this. I don't know. I gotta go. All right. So excited. Oh, and if you learned about the show from Tony Michaels, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. 100K is right around the corner. Oh, the show we will have at 100K, because I'm going to get that plaque. And I'm going to do a show. If I get to 100K, I'm going to do a show only wearing the plaque. I'm going to hang it around my waist like a sandwich board. There, I said it. What's that music from? It's copyright-free loop that I have. It's just silly. But I could put it on without wrecking my without like getting my channel shut down. Anyways, thank you so much. If you feel like donating $55 to the computer fund, there's the Venmo right over there. It is a celebration. I'm trying everything I can that help us get a new computer. Growth is an ongoing process, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank CSL, I want to thank Andrea, and I want to thank Boston Brian, I want to thank Carl, I want to thank everybody who's in here. I'm so excited. I can barely stand it. I don't even know how I'm going to even deal. It's too good a day. I think I might, and we'll see how this works out, but I might even have to, at some point, like, I guess, why is this not working? There you go. I might actually have to, like, take off my pants and...
Groovy.
I'm your huckleberry.
Groovy.
Thank you guys so much.
Geez, you're real nice. If I didn't have puke breath, I'd kiss you.
Did have shade.
It's good to be the king.
I am a HAL 9000 computer.
Bob Egg. Bob Egg.
What?
Sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Am I getting to review?
That was really cool, by the way.
We need you. Hell, I need you. I'm a mess without you. I miss you so damn much. I miss being with you. I miss being near you. I miss your laugh. I miss your scent. I miss your musk. When this all gets sorted out, I think you and me should get an apartment together.
Something strange happened to me this morning. Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you? No. Why am I the only person that has that dream?
Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
Who wants some?
I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, I drank what?
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss.
Beef jerky? No, son, thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind, something terrible.
Oh.